Hi, English 10 Honors. Hopefully by now you have selected a theme from your novel that you have connected to poems and short stories. Next, you are going to locate literary criticism that will support the thematic connections and assertions that you will be writing about. As a quick reminder, literary criticism is writing from literary experts that analyzes, interprets, and evaluates works of literature. You will quote literary criticism to strengthen the arguments you make in your paper, just like you would quote an expert from NASA to strengthen a paper you are writing about space exploration. Your goal today is to find at least 2 criticisms that you feel you can use when writing your paper. Let's get 2 items open to get us started. First, pull up your research paper sources chart. We will be filling out the blue boxes this time. And of course, get to the Honors English 10 Pathfinder on the library website because that's where all of the research links are located. I hope you have that page bookmarked, but if not, go to the RV homepage, click on Academics, Library, then Pathfinders, and get to the Honors English 10 page. Here I have set up the 3 main places where you will be able to find literary criticism. First, you will be guaranteed to find critical essays in our sets of novels, poetry, and short stories for students. The indexes for all 3 of these are linked right here in step 1. For poems and short stories, you're going to need to open the relevant index, use Control F on your keyboard so you can search for the title of your poem or short story, and then note the volume number that your poem or short story is referenced in. Then you need to get up and head over to the shelf to grab that volume. But be careful. All of the volumes for poetry, novels, and short stories for students all look very similar and they're right next to each other. So just make sure you grab the poetry volume if that's what you're after, not the novels or short stories volume. Once you have grabbed that correct volume, all of the chapters are organized alphabetically by the title of the poem or the story, so you just have to flip through the book until you see your title. Each volume is going to feature a lot of good information about the novel, poem, or short story. But to find the criticism, you'll need to skim through several pages. Use those black section headings to guide you until you see a section called Critical Overview. More on this in just a second. The index for novels for students is a little bit different because we have scanned many of the chapters for the books that some of you have chosen for this project. So if you use Control F and you see that the title of your novel is hyperlinked in blue, you don't actually need to grab the physical volume of the set. We have already scanned it. But if your title is not hyperlinked in blue, you're going to have to get up and go grab your volume. For those of you lucky enough to have a hyperlinked title, you just need to click on it and you will have a digital copy of the chapter that you need. Again, use those headings to skim ahead to the Critical Overview section. In that section, you will find a collection of criticisms or writings about the book from various experts, and that is exactly what you are all looking for today. The expert's name is listed first, and a brief statement about the focus of their criticism. When you see another italicized name, that is the start of a different critical essay. Each chapter of Novels for Students will have at least 3 critical essays. And I recommend skimming through all of them. The main focus of the criticism might not be exactly what you're writing about, but you may be able to pull some information for your paper. For example, the primary focus of this criticism is about patterns in Wuthering Heights, which is not what I'm writing about. But relationships is one of the patterns explored by the expert. And there is some information here about Catherine and Heathcliff being soulmates and the effect that Heathcliff's departure had on Catherine, and I may be able to use some of this. When adding a criticism to your research paper sources chart from Novels for Students, make sure to note the page that the information is contained on and the author of that criticism. This will help you when you create your Works Cited page. The second place to locate criticism is in the Literature Resource Center. This database has a lot of criticism for poems, short stories, and novels. and you will need a Jeffco Public Library card login to access it. If you don't have a library card, you can use one of my generic accounts listed here. Once you are logged into the database, start with your novel. When I type in Wuthering Heights, I am told there are 1,002 criticisms. That's not entirely accurate. I need to apply some filters to make my results both more accurate and more manageable. When you get lots and lots of results, make sure you apply the name of work filter so you get critical essays that focus specifically on your book, not just a critical essay that may mention your book in passing. When I apply the name of work filter, that brings things down to 52 results. That's still a lot, so I'm going to filter for document type next, and I'm going to select critical essays and articles. Now I have a much smaller list of results. I will scroll through my results and look for titles that hint that the author of the criticism is writing about the theme I'm exploring in my paper, which for me is love. And once I scroll a little bit, I quickly get a couple of very obvious matches. If I didn't get an obvious match by skimming through titles, I would start opening criticisms and skim through them to see if the author ventured into a discussion of my theme somewhere in their essay. One of the things you're going to love most about the database is that you can open an article, and if you decide you want to use it, simply click the Export to Google Drive option at the top or bottom of the article, and the article will appear in your Google Drive. Make sure you double check it the first time you use it. Sometimes I have to click the Drive button twice. The first time authenticates my accounts, and the second time actually delivers the article. But once the article arrives in my Drive, it has the full text of the criticism, and at the very bottom, the source MLA citation, which will make my Works Cited page a breeze. Okay, let me go back to the Literature Resource Center and see if I can find some criticism about my poems and short stories. You should be able to find criticism about both, but you may need to alter your searching strategy slightly. So let me start with my poem, which is Annabel Lee by Edgar Allan Poe. And I do get a lot of results, but if I try to apply the name of work filter, that's going to cut my results down to 1. This particular filter does not work as well for criticisms on poems because many experts focus on a poet rather than a specific poem, and so they'll look at a various collection of that author's poems in one essay. So I'm not going to apply that filter. I will apply the document type filter to only look at critical essays. Now it is just a game of skimming and scrolling. I'm going to open various articles and skim through them. Notice how my search term is highlighted in orange by the database, which makes it really easy for me to locate sections of this criticism that are talking about Annabel Lee. That's a very nice feature. I had to go through several different critical essays on Annabel Lee and Poe's poetry, but finally, in this critical essay on Poe's use of symbolism, I found a very useful section on the heart-rendering sorrow at the loss of love that occurred in Annabel Lee, and this I definitely think I might be able to use in my paper. So I will add it to my chart. You will need to be similarly persistent when looking up criticism for your short story. I'm going to highlight the title of my short story, search for it in the Literature Resource Center. I only get 24 results at first, so I'm not going to do the name of work filter. I will just filter for document type. And obviously I will start with these criticisms at the top that focus specifically on my short story, but I may need to skim through some of the other critical essays that discuss numerous short stories by this author. The third place to look for criticisms is in the library catalog. Click here to search our catalog. Click the magnifying glass and enter the title of your novel. Anything with the letters FIC in the call number means it's the actual novel in the fiction section. So look for something that starts in the 800s. Anything in the 800s typically refers to critical essays. That's right, these are entire books of critical essays about Wuthering Heights, and we have lots of similar books about most of the novels on your list. Simply write down the call number, and we can help you use those numbers and letters to find the actual book. We also have some other places in the library to locate criticism, so if you have carefully searched and researched all of these places, let me know. However, if you really spend the time to look carefully through these 3 resources, I think you'll all have success finding criticisms to strengthen your papers.